Prick up your ears.
The sound of DTM.
My car sounds like music to my ears.
My favorite sound when the car is leaving the pits.
My favorite sound, the cheering of the fans.
Crank it up. My favorite sound? The silence before the lights go green.
Full blast.
Downshifting from full speed. When I rev up my engine to its absolute limit. Too close to cool. Cheering on the podium.
Be aware.
It's gonna be loud.
Hello and welcome to the Nürburgring, the DTM's 50th appearance here at the Nürburgring, and we're about to get qualifying underway for race number 13. What a season it's been, what a season it continues to be. And qualifying is going to be just as exciting as everything that's gone before as we reach the sharp end of the DTM Championship for 2016. We have 2 races here at the Nürburgring before we head off to the Hungaroring. And then, of course, the season finale at Hockenheim. And some big news regarding Martin TOMCZYK, the driver that drives car number 100, who has announced that he will be retiring from DTM at the end of this season. And certainly won't be Martin TOMCZYK retirement from motorsport as he moves into a GT campaign, that's for sure. But what a servant he has been to the DTM category. Martin TOMCZYK then, who will be leaving at the end of 2016. And there you can see just some of the images of Martin TOMCZYK. And what I love about the BMW garages is the name of the driver and then the backstage element. So it's Martin's backstage, Bruno's backstage, and the stage, of course, belongs to that man, Jens Marquardt, that we were looking at, who, of course, is the head of BMW DTM. Miguel Molina, then, we look at now. Now, he was fastest in FP2. Interestingly, in FP1, it was Vitoris who was quickest, but Vitoris was second quickest in free practice 2. So you can never read too much into free practice necessarily when it comes to qualifying, as we've learned on many occasions. Christian Vitoris we saw briefly in the all-pink car before we look at Robert Wickens, who of course is chasing Marco Wittmann in the championship at the moment. As we go into the race a little bit later today, Robert Wickens sits on 118 points. Marco Wittmann leads the championship on 130. There, the confirmation of the result from FP2 then, and the best BMW look, Maxime Martin. And the second fastest BMW was Marco Wittmann, who was third fastest in FP1, but certainly not third fastest in FP2. Of course, he leads the championship. From the motorsportarchive.com, alongside me is Leo Gorman. There is the championship leader, Marco Wittmann. And we would suggest that from FP2, where BMW, the fastest BMW was Maxime Martin, P6, they've got a bit of work to do. Sandbagging?
You know what, that is the beauty, I think, sometimes of testing and of practice, that you can look at the times and say, are they sandbagging? Is this their actual pace? And the element of practice, especially FP2, which took place about 2 hours ago, or an hour and a half ago, is that sometimes you have to wonder, what program are they running? Are they running a qualifying program that will set them up well for qualifying now and today's race later on?
Which, of course, is the shorter race of the two. It's like a sprint race, really, isn't it? 40 minutes.
Or are they possibly maybe going through a program that will allow them better pace over a longer race with a pit stop, i.e. tomorrow's race? So it's actually quite difficult to tell exactly what the program is each team is running to. As you say, being fastest BMW in FP2 might be P6, but are they running a program possibly for tomorrow's race or maybe even were trying out a qualifying setup that didn't work. It's hard to know.
What I find amazing is we have a 20-minute qualifying session where we have all cars out on track at various stages. Therefore, you would think you want to get the max out of the qualifying session. We are already 30 seconds into it, and we haven't got a car on the track. As we look at the Robert Wickens car there, you know, I find it amazing because, you know, drivers will go out and they'll do a run, then they'll perhaps come back in and they go out late in the session to do another run potentially, depending on who has done what and who is where. But of course, you're going to get mired in traffic and trying to find a clear lap around the Nürburgring circuit when, you know, it's 3.6 kilometre circuits, 11 turns, 7 right, 4 left.
It's the shorter version.
It is the shorter version. Well,
again, I think you're playing a game here. You don't want to be the driver necessarily who's cleaning the racing line, who's cleaning the track. And you're right, they will go out later on for a last few minute bash to get the fastest time. The circle will be full of traffic, but this is where the driver works so well with the engineers. The timing on both sides needs to be absolutely impeccable. And qualifying in DTM, like in a lot of forms of motorsport, sometimes it's the last guy who crosses the line for the checker flag is the guy who'll set the quickest time. But timing that right,
that's an art in itself. We look at the Paul di Resta car then. Paul di Resta, who's currently P5 in the championship, going into this race here at Nürburgring. And Maximilian Goertz, who I was having a conversation with yesterday, who, to be fair, comes here to the Nürburgring, a track he loves. And we had a great conversation about his exploits around the Nürburgring, myself and Maximilian, yesterday. And of course, his performance in Moscow was perhaps the best we've seen. Took a P4, of course, in race 1. It wasn't quite so good in race 2, where it got contact, and it was P16. But a P4 for Maximilian Goertz puts him on a bit of a confidence high going into this Nürburgring weekend. We're on board with Paul di Resta then. We're looking back at the Maximilian Goertz car now from our onboard cameras. So many onboard cameras that we can bring you across the course of not only the race but qualifying, as well as we look at Gary Paffett there in car number 2. Of course, took P3 in race 1 at Moscow. And there is Robert Wickens. And just behind Robert Wickens is Felix ROSENQVIST. He knows about winning at the Nürburgring, that's for sure, because in his Formula 3 career, he was hugely successful here, Lee.
And I think he took all 3 races the last of the Nürburgring he did last year. He's always been supreme. This is one of those, sometimes drivers have circuits where they just click. Everything they do, it works on every corner they do. The exit just happens to come together. The little kink that they fly through, they take a little bit more speed through than everyone else. Sometimes there's not necessarily a magic bullet for a driver, but they just get a circuit. And Felix has that relationship with the Nürburgring.
Gets everything hooked up. Well, hooking it up now is Robert Wickens, then off the back then of turn number 7, the bit curve, as he runs down towards what is the kink and adjusts the brake bias. You just saw him do that through the kink, and now it's heavy braking before it is the Vidal or NGK chicane there.
And Mr. Chicane, he's Mr. Chicane.
He has.
He's having to take the long way around. And there you will see, actually, we just got a clip there where Wickens mixed the chicane. Now, he's taken the other route around the chicane, but it's got tyre walls in the chicane. So you can't just blast through the alternative route. You have to stop, slow down, and guide your way in amongst those tyre walls. And that's a good plan there. And you'll probably see it again here as he actually locked his right front, knows he's not going to make the corner, sees the tyre walls, has to slow all the way down. And you know what? It's a very good deterrent for drivers to maybe, you can't get an advantage there in any way, shape or form. And if you try to, well, you're going to hit something.
Well, we go back on board with him now. It's Daniel Juncadella that has set the benchmark quickest time very early on in this session, on 1:23.593. But just look how he is fighting with that car. Again, adjustments being made to the brake bias. Here's Maxime Martin now.
And you'll see it, as we just saw at Juncadella and Wickens a moment ago, where they're adjusting the brake balance and elements like that. This is why this first run is actually quite crucial. A lot of people look at this and say, well, they're only setting banker laps. Well, actually, what they're doing is they're using this first run to maybe absolutely solidify things like the brake balance for their fast run, which is going to come in a few minutes' time.
We were on board there with Paul di Resta, and I think that was Maximilian Goertz that ran just a bit wide off the back of the chicane there and kicked up a bit of dust. And interestingly, already Robert Wickens, of course, having run through the chicane, gets that lap time cancelled for failing to manage the track limits. Maximilian Gertz quickest now, 1:23.335, and there's me saying he's come here buoyed of the confidence of that brilliant top 4 position he took in race 1 at the Moscow Raceway. It's Tom Blomqvist now.
And it's a heads up for those who are long history of watching DTM. Last season, the 2 pole positions of Lucas Auer and Miguel Molina were 1 minute 21.9 and a 1 minute 21.7 respectively. Actually, the 2 fastest pole laps for DTM at this circuit since it came back in the year 2000.
Jamie Green is quickest at the moment, 1:23.161. Then Jamie Green, who still, of course, has aspirations with regards to the championship, is P3 in the points at the moment on 104 points. As we look at Christian Vitoris, who's been quick in both of the 3 practice sessions, does a personal best through Sector 1 and Sector 2. He has Nico Muller ahead of him now. This is Christian Vitoris then in the all-pink machine as he rounds the Coca-Cola turn and heads towards the timing line. His teammate Lucas Auer crosses the timing line now, but here comes Christian Vitoris, who goes P9 with a 1:23.579. He was fastest of anyone through Sector 3. Really got that nailed, that's for sure.
You also have to use these first fast laps to really kind of place the car almost, because you're kind of relearning the track to a small degree, because the conditions have changed slightly since this morning. It's definitely warmer.
Absolutely, that's a very point I was going to make. As we watch Marco Wittmann then PB through Sector 1, 42.791 for Marco Wittmann then. He, of course, as we mentioned at the start of the programme, sits atop the championship table on 130 points.
And we're seeing guys coming into the pits now. They've done their first runs. They've nailed their first 4 laps, of course, an out lap, 2 quick laps, and then the in lap. They're going to relay that information, anything they picked up to the engineers. The engineers are going to discuss any potential changes, any potential options that they'll have. You know, maybe have a change of tyres, or maybe they'll just change tyre pressures, and that's also quite key, as we were discussing with the guys from Hankook yesterday. But this is where you get the final little adjustments before you're sent out one last time for a batch of quick laps at the end of this race. We're almost halfway through the session.
I know. Eduardo Mortara bounces across the curves to provide a 42.764 through Sector 1. Eduardo Mortara then, who is P4 in the championship table at the moment, the Audi driver, 42.764 for Sector 1 then, as he heads now towards the chicane and is going to cross the beam for Sector 2, a 20.755 through the chicane he goes now, which is very uphill. It's not until you stand right at the bottom of that chicane that perhaps you really appreciate the elevation change, continuing to climb just very slightly uphill around the Coca-Cola turn into the start-finish straight, and as you cross the timing line, you then set P19 for Eduardo Mortara, and you start going downhill towards turn number 1, which is very much almost a hairpin. There is the car of Bruno Spengler, who is yet to go out and give us a time. We're on board once again with the championship leader, Marco Wittmann, who's P10 currently as he crosses the beam now. He improves 5 places to go P5. But at the moment, it is Green, Auer,
box in this lap.
And you know what?
P5 at the moment.
Are going to be very small, very small. I mean, we're talking just 1.2 seconds.
Could come in a bit earlier, to be honest.
So listening to what Wittmann has to say there. And he's talking about whether he could have come in a bit earlier, perhaps. So, that's a big, big lock-up indeed for...
That's Augusto Farfus.
Augusto Farfus, then. A big lock-up for him, and running very wide there as well as he tries to bring it all together.
One of the things that people will notice when you see the onboard footage, and you'll just see it there right in the middle of the screen, is the brake bias handle, as it were, with a front on top and rear to the end.
Like a paddle, isn't it?
Yeah, and it might look overly big, really, for a modern racing car to a degree. But you know what? These cars are set up to, in a sense, for the driver's comfort. They already have a lot of switches. They already have their pedals and whatnot beneath them. And sometimes you just need something that's clear-cut to reach out for that you know will make the change. It's all about positioning the driver and the positioning of the switches and handles for their comfort and maximum use.
Okay, we're into the last 10 minutes of this session, which Jamie Green leads. It's Lucas Eyre is P2, Tom Blomqvist is P3, Paul de Resta is P4. Then it's Wittmann, Gertz, Juncker, Timo SCHEIDER, Martin TOMCZYK is P9, and Felix ROSENQVIST is P10. Felix ROSENQVIST confirmed, of course, for this round. He made his DTM debut at the Moscow Raceway. The current FIA Formula 3 European champion is Felix ROSENQVIST, with great experience of this Nürburgring circuit, as we were saying just a little bit earlier on in the programme. It's certainly a circuit he knows and likes it very much.
And what a debut at Moscow as well,
was
scoring a point on his first race, and he qualified P9 in that as well, so very, very, very good effort from the young man.
Okay, we've got the clock on Miguel Molina then, 42.696 through Sector 1. Now, bearing in mind, he was the quickest driver in free practice 2. Let's see what he can deliver in qualifying. So, Miguel Molina is about to head into the chicane. Another PB, of course, through Sector 2.
This is actually his first run out. His first run out. So he didn't actually have a run earlier on. So maybe he's going just for a single set of laps in his last 10 minutes. But let's see how he does coming across the line.
For one more lap. 2.5 tenths Sector 1, 2.5 tenths Sector 1, 1 tenth Sector 3.
So there we are. He knows what he's got to do. What
this is going to be a fast turnaround, isn't it?
What an advantage he's got is that he's got clear air ahead of him, hasn't he? And that will be the case also for Bruno Spengler. So Spengler then in the BMW Bank livery that he's run across his BMW. 42.723 through Sector 1. When you look at Green's time, it's a 42.439. It's a way away, isn't it?
But Spengler and Molina, they're going to have very, very fast turnaround periods if that's the case. Because if they're going to do maybe one fast lap and then an in lap, then they maybe only have 6 minutes before the end of the session. They're going to have to be turned around very quickly, almost sent out straight away for their final runs, unless Spengler stays out for the rest of the session.
It's possible. We've seen all permutations during the short qualifying sessions.
Farfus improves, he's gone up to P21, and yes, it was right, Spengler has actually he set the 14th fastest time, and will he come in at the end of this lap? It could set his session up for him.
Let's just have a look at this replay then as he takes the NGK chicane here, and super slow-mo of Bruno Spengler taking a lot of curb there, that almost stepping the back end of the car out and then steering in the other direction, of course, just catching the curb on the edge of the curbstone there, and catching more than the curb and quite a bit of grass as well is Molina.
And you know, this might sound like a silly thing to say, but it is actually really 2 turns in that chicane.
Of course it is.
Because you can't, and it's not like unlike some chicanes which have just enough width to actually drive through. You have to actually have a hard left and a hard right over those curbs.
And the other element of that is you're climbing.
Yes. Absolutely.
You know, you are climbing, and Molina did not climb across the tarmac. He chose to go across the grass. So
that's not going to do his tyres any good.
No, it isn't. And furthermore, it's going to run a load of dust out onto the track, just where you're looking for the maximum traction coming off the back of that chicane. Okay, this is Jamie Green, who is thus far fastest with a 1:23.161, and we've got 6.25 minutes left in this session as Antonio Felix da Costa looks on, and we get some super slow-mo images of the engineers at work here. It's Green, our Blomqvist, de Resta, Wittmann, the top 5.
And Green's really going to be hoping for a good weekend, not just for himself, but for Audi as well. He's currently 26 points behind championship leader Marco Wittmann. Okay, 3 rounds. There's 2 races here this weekend, 2 races at the Hungaroring in a couple of weeks' time, and then 2 races at Hockenheim next month. But, you know, he's also going to be aware that the likes of Wittmann and Wickens are also going to be scoring regularly.
Lap when I came in, please.
So Green's also going to be aware that the top 2 are going to be scoring regularly as well. So he needs to really take chunks out of Wittmann and Wickens this weekend if he's going to have any kind of championship challenge. It's a tough call. It's a very, very tough call.
And there is Jamie Green, who's parked up.
We have to go with the pack. We have to go with the pack. Otherwise, you know, we fuck the ties. If we want to go for 3 time laps, we have to go before. You want to wait? Okay. Car up.
Eduardo Mortara then in the garage as well.
It's only 5 minutes left. So this is not going to be 2 fast laps even. This may be just 1 fast lap.
And the trouble is with, just 4 3/4 minutes left, it's going to get all of a sudden very, very busy
But
indeed.
like this, we're going to do only 2 time laps, eh? And we have, okay.
He's saying 2 time laps. Just like I said earlier on, though, the person who nails their timing and can get across the start line before the checkered flag comes out, there could be the one who really has the advantage.
Well, let's see.
And cars coming out now.
Spengler in there with another set of boots going on.
Actually, that shows Spengler he's done 1 quick run and just darted into the pits. He's not gone into the garage. He's literally gone for a racing pit stop during qualifying.
On the way out then is Antonio Felix Costa, Bruno Spengler. There is Jamie Green, who's coming out as well. So too is Christian Vittoris. So too is Martin TOMCZYK. So all of a sudden it becomes very busy. We've just got 4 minutes left. There's Christian Vittoris. He's on the way out of the garage as well. We can also see Timo Glock right at the back of the pit lane.
Provisional poleman Green is on his way out now, as is Lucas Auer. I think we're going to see a very, very busy track now, Dave.
Okay, there is the Tom Blomqvist Ice Watch liveried car about to leave the garage, and we have just 3.5 minutes of this dramatic qualifying session to set the grid for the shorter race to come a little bit later today in weather conditions which are, I'm tempted to say, almost unheard of here at the Nürburgring. It's beautifully warm, it's dry, it's sunny.
What I'm actually amazed about is it's not that it's sunny, but it's sunny for the 2nd consecutive day.
Here we go for 3 in a row. Let's see. Okay. There is Martin TOMCZYK then.
And I think TOMCZYK will actually be fancying his chances. He's P9 at the moment. He's taken 2 wins here in the past at the Nürburgring. He does like this circuit, but this is going to be one hell of a last run for the former champion.
Yes. So there is the Martin TOMCZYK car then into the final turn. Starts to climb uphill now towards the timing beam.
And he's got, I think, anyone who's crossing the lap roundabout now, you have got 2 fast laps to go. 2.5 minutes left. You're averaging 1 minute 23 per qualifying lap.
Christian Vittoris then. We put the clock on him in the all-pink car of the Muka team, which is likened, of course, to that of his teammate Lucas Auer, who, incidentally, is currently 2nd fastest with a 1:23.204. So the benchmark Sector 1 is 42.439. What can Christian Vittoris deliver for us across Sector 1 of this lap? Well, it's a 42.575, so it's a 1/10 and a 1/3 down, isn't it? So
he needs to do a lot more than that, but he's not going to go fastest in this run. This is where he builds the tyre temperature up. This is where he gets his brakes back up to temperature. And the next lap round, we will see him absolutely gun it. And we may even see plenty of tyre smoke going into turn 1, such as the ferocity that the drivers will be punching into that first corner.
Daniel Juncker is under investigation for blocking. Here comes Jamie Green then, done a PB through Sector 1, a 42.386. Heads up across the timing beam for Sector 2.
He's still faster, but he's lost a little bit of time in that middle sector as he comes through the final couple of corners and over to the start-finish straights.
So we watch the number 53 British Jamie Green.
Purple from Lucas Auer. He's going to be coming across the line very shortly after Green as well.
So here comes Green, then
a little slower. Our fastest, 0.2 of a second, 1/4 of a second actually. Lucas Auer goes P1 for the moment. It's on.
1:22.900 for Lucas Auer. Then we've got less than a minute remaining. It's those that are out there. Keep an eye on Marco Wittmann, who's just done best of anyone through the sector.
Cross the line, P2, only a 1/10 of a second behind Auer. And again, also that was the purple sectors in Sector 2, Sector 3, but he lost a lot in Sector 1.
Okay, but he can do another lap. This will be his last opportunity to do so. Tom Blomqvist we're on board with then. He's just been knocked down from P5 to P6. His middle sector was not brilliant. He did a PB through Sector 1. So Tom Blomqvist then, who is currently P6, rounds the final turn, heads towards the timing line.
Mortara P5 goes across the line. Blomqvist meanwhile P3. Good effort, 1/4 of a second. He's got one more lap.
Pulled it back in Sector 3, didn't he?
Last 5 seconds.
4. And the clock counts down. Anyone that's not crossed the line now is not going to get another lap. So it's those that are out there on track now. And Felix da Costa just crosses the timing line just after the clock stops. Here is Timo Glock then. 42.466 through Sector 1. He's currently P13.
Day up to P5. Dave, in the meantime, as all that's going on, Glock takes the chicane.
So Timo Glock then, he's got the number 27 Audi of Adrien TAMBAY ahead of him. It's not going to cause a problem because he's far enough up the road to not hamper Timo Glock. So Junkadea being reported to the stewards. I mentioned that he'd been accused of blocking. Glock goes P8.
And also cross line, Gaffett P18, he's P12. He's not going to like that too much, to be honest. As Nico Muller takes P19 as well, 3/4 of a second down.
So Eduardo Mortara then, he who is very much in the championship chase. Well, in Sector 1 wasn't brilliant, but he was faster than anyone through Sector 2. Has he pulled it all back through Sector 3? Here comes Eduardo Mortara, was P7. He's now improved 2 places. It's P5. It's our Wittmann, Blomqvist, Green, Mortara at the moment.
Now let's look out for Robert Wickens. He's down in P18 at the moment. He's in the final sector and he increased. Oh, he's up to P12. But a guy who's second in the championship, he's not going to be awfully happy with that. Now drops to P13 as Maxime Martin. It also improves. Wittmann, P2.
Our P1. Our pole position at the Nürburgring for the second time.
Absolutely, he did the exact same thing for race 1 last year as well. Went on to win. So he didn't win that race, but he's going to be looking to win this one and make up for last year's disappointment.
Well, Lucas Auer then, who's dives into the pit lane, whose overtake around turn 1 at Zandvoort has been the stuff of legend of this DTM season. Lucas Auer with a 1:22.900 gives us our pole position for race 1 to come. Auer, Wittmann, Blomqvist, Green, Mortara, Junkadea, Felix ROSENQVIST. Peter Mucker is a very happy man indeed.
Rightly so, rightly so. That was a fabulous lap by Lucas. But I'll tell you something, if you're in Robert Wickens' garage right now, you might be looking up the timing screens and a little bit of disappointment and angst about what's going to happen in race 1.
This is what I find fascinating about DTM. There is Peter Mucker, absolutely delighted with one of his drivers who's set pole position. Christian Vittoris, same team.
P16.
P16. Explain.
I don't. This is one of the elements about this circuit. There's not an awful lot of corners, and we do mean it when there's only half a second between Vittoris and Auer. Yeah, that's a half a second.
Half a second is a huge amount in DTM.
And that's the difference between P1 and P16, and it could be a little bit of the difference when maybe you're braking 50 meters too early, or you could be getting on the throttle a little bit too late. They're going to go over that information at the debriefing after this qualifying, and it may be too late for Vittoris in race 1 because, quite frankly, without the strategy of the pit stop race that we have tomorrow, it's going to be difficult for him to really climb up the order. But if anything else, they can go into debrief and rescue something for tomorrow's race.
Okay, so we await Marco Wittmann then to get out of his car as we take some super slow-mos of Lucas Auer, then the Austrian, who has done it again at the Nürburgring. For race 1, put it on pole position, a 1:22.900, the time from Lucas Auer. Driving, of course, for Mucker Motorsports. Some brilliant shots of Peter Mucker and the team, really enjoying the fact that Lucas Auer has put that car once again on pole position. And Lucas Auer, who's... really, it's all hooked up together for him in DTM this season, buoyed by the fact, of course, that he took that race win at the Lausitzring in the longer race of the 2 races at the Lausitzring. There.
The wonderful sight of the Eiffel Mountain.
Right, Lucas Auer, Marco Wittmann, Tom Blomqvist, 1, 2, 3. Then it was Jamie Green, Eduardo Mortara, Daniel Junkadea. Felix ROSENQVIST, another good quali from him, P7. Timo Glock, Bruno Spengler, Paul Di Resta, Maxime Martin, and Maximilian Goertz then round out the first page. Before we find Robert Wickens, Gary Paffett, Timo SCHEIDER, Christian Vittoris, Martin TOMCZYK, Miguel Molina, Mattias EKSTROM, P19. Then it was Muller, Felix da Costa, Rocky, P22, Tambay, P23, Augusto Farfus, P24.
Dave, that's 7 Audis in the bottom half of the grid.
I'd be happy about that. So the castle then provided the backdrop to this man to give us yet another stunning lap around the Nürburgring, and to give us a pole position with a 1:22.9. What a great time. What a great drive in quali from Lucas Au. The team really, really delighted with his performance, and he'll be hoping to convert that into something very, very memorable come race this afternoon. So Au, WITTMANN, Blomqvist, best of the Audis, Jamie Green, P4. Here comes the slow-mos then of the top three. So Tom Blomqvist then, driving of course for the RBM team, puts the car P3. Then it's Marco WITTMANN for RMG, then BMW. Leading the championship charge at the moment, he will go from P2. And for Muka Motorsport, Lucas Au, who has astounded us once again here at the Nürburgring with a brilliant qualifying session. He was P3 in free practice 2, and he improves that by 2 places when it comes to qualifying by giving us pole position 1:22.9 for Lucas Au. He'll be starting the race this afternoon in the most coveted place. So let's bring you the grid in full for race number 13. Marco WITTMANN and Tom Blomqvist there, and take not too much notice of that. Jamie Green is P3, Eduardo Mortara actually P6. Then it's Junkadea and Lucas Au. Felix ROSENQVIST, Timo Glock were next in P7, P8. Then it was Spengler and De Resta, Maxime Martin and Maximilian Gertz. You can see there. Robert Wickens and Gary Paffett. Before Timo SCHEIDER and Christian Vittoris. Then we see Martin TOMCZYK, who of course has announced his retirement from the DTM, and Miguel Molina, Mattias EKSTROM and Nico Muller, Antonio Felix da Costa and Mike Rockenfeller. Before Adrien TAMBAY and Augusto Farfus. So the race is going to be intriguing from qualifying at Nürburgring. Thank you so much for being part of it. And in an hour and a half's time, please join us for race number 1.